All right, let's dive in. Today we are looking at a really powerful idea from Michael Saylor. He's reframing Bitcoin in a way you might not have heard before. Not as money, but as the raw fuel for a whole new financial system.
You're watching the One-Eyed Monkey channel, where tech, gadgets, and Bitcoin collide.
So for years, right, we've all heard the same things. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is a new currency. But what if that's thinking way too small? What if its real purpose, its true power, is something else entirely?
I want you to imagine Bitcoin not as something you'd use to buy a coffee, but as raw, potent crude oil. You know, it's incredibly powerful in its raw state, but you wouldn't put crude oil directly into your car, would you? Of course not. Its real value only gets unlocked after it's been refined.
And this gets us to the core concept here, Bitcoin as digital capital. Just think of it as a long-term asset, something you're going to hold for 10, maybe 20 years. It's high performance, which means it's designed to go up in value, but it's also super volatile. And that combination, that's what makes it the perfect raw material for what's called financial engineering, basically taking a raw asset and turning it into something brand new and way more useful. Okay, so we have this powerful new form of capital. What's the point? What problem is it even trying to solve? Well, according to Saylor, it's that our entire financial system is basically running on an old, sputtering engine that hasn't seen a real upgrade in decades.
Get ready for this number. It is staggering. A whopping 99.9% of the 40 million businesses in the US are totally locked out of the capital markets. I mean, could you imagine if 99.9% of companies just didn't have access to the internet? That's the level of inefficiency we're dealing with here. It's kind of insane.
And this comparison really says it all, doesn't it? Our current markets are stuck in a time warp. They operate on bankers' hours, Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 4. But we live in a global economy that never, ever sleeps. This is a massive bottleneck.
This quote from Saylor just hits the nail on the head. I mean, think about it. Technology has completely revolutionized every other part of our lives. But the core engine of our financial world? It's been stuck in the 90s.
So, if Bitcoin is the crude oil and the old system is broken, how do we actually build the new one? Well, this is where the idea of the digital refinery comes into play. It's a process for turning that raw digital capital into actually useful financial products.
So here's how this refinery actually works. It's basically a four-step process. First, you start with the raw stuff, Bitcoin. Step 2, you strip out the risk by over-collateralizing it. That just means you back a loan with way more Bitcoin than the loan is actually worth, maybe 5 or even 10 times the amount. Third, you structure the whole thing to smooth out those wild price swings. And finally, you distill a pure, predictable investment yield in a currency we all know, like the US dollar.
And the whole point of this, the end game, it's all about transformation. You take this volatile 20-year energy source and you refine it into its polar opposite, a stable, predictable, short-term product that pretty much anyone can use.
Now, this refined product, it has a name in Saylor's big metaphor. It's called kerosene. It's the cleanest, highest-grade fuel to come out of the refinery, and it's designed for everybody. So what exactly is this kerosene? Well, in financial speak, it's a digital credit instrument. You can think of it like a new kind of bond or a savings certificate. The really key features are a stable principal value, a super short duration, we're talking maybe just a month, and a high yield, all in a currency you use every single day.
And here is the punchline. It's all about the yield. A typical US bank account, if you're lucky, might get you about 4% interest. But these new digital instruments, they're being designed to offer yields of 10% or more. For anyone just trying to make their money work for them, that is a potential game changer.
You know, when you strip away all the techie crypto jargon, the sales pitch becomes incredibly simple. He asks, do you want a stable investment that yields 10% tax-deferred? That becomes a very, very compelling question for almost anyone.
And look, the target audience here isn't just the crypto crowd. This is for retirees who need their pensions to go further. It's for corporate treasurers looking for a better return on their cash. It's for everyday people who are just fed up with getting basically zero interest at the bank. The vision is so big, it's even been described as a potential social security for 1 billion people.
But you know, this isn't just about creating one cool new product. It really represents a fundamental shift in how we think about finance. It could be the start of a much, much bigger revolution.
And to really see how big a deal this is, you got to look at history. For centuries, credit was backed by physical gold.
Then, after 1971, that all ended, and it became backed by government promises, what we call fiat currency. This new model, it introduces the first truly new form of credit in over a century, digital credit, backed by a provably scarce digital asset.
And the market that's being targeted here is just absolutely enormous. We are talking about the U.S. short-term treasury and money market. That's basically where all the biggest corporations and investors park their cash. That market alone is a $30 trillion opportunity. The scale of this potential disruption is just mind-boggling.
This represents a fundamental mental shift. Traditionally, companies issue debt because they have to, right? It's a means to an end, a way to fund their operations. In this new model, creating high-quality, high-yield credit, it isn't just a tool, it is the product. That's the whole business.
So what's the big takeaway here? We're looking at a blueprint that uses a 21st century digital asset to completely rebuild a 20th century financial engine. It reframes Bitcoin not just as something you buy and hold, but as the raw energy for a whole new generation of financial products. And the final, provocative thought from Saylor is that for all the skeptics and cynics out there, dismissing this idea might just be a choice to be strategically ignorant of what's coming next.